Let me introduce our folks here. House and Lee is committed to expanding agency at scale through workshop design, facilitation, and foresight. He is part of the Young Voices Network. He has been a futurist for 4 years and facilitates workshops designed to empower local governments across the U.S. to incorporate strategic foresight methods into decision-making. Kara Kunzeman is the Director of Strategic Foresight within the for Space Policy and Strategy at the Aerospace Corporation. Kunzeman championed and founded the Strategic Foresight Directory at Aerospace and serves as its first director. In her role, Kunzeman leads an A-team of incredible thinkers who are focused on cultivating a formalized approach to futures thinking through the discipline of strategic foresight. Kunzeman is declared a mad scientist by the U.S. Army Training and Doctrine Command, TRADOC, a member of the Federal Foresight Community of Interest, and a frequent guest speaker. She received her bachelor's degree in multidisciplinary engineering and a master's degree in aeronautics and astronautics engineering from Purdue University. She is also a certified foresight practitioner and guest instructor at the Institute for the Future and the Center for Intelligence Studies, International Space Agency, American University, and George Washington University. My gosh, Kara, that's 4 universities. I don't know how you keep that going up. And this is not part of the official bio, but I want to tell you that Kara is our hero these days because she is standing up the very first U.S. hub for Teach the Future. First meeting happening, and next Tuesday, you'll get an email about that. So Kara and Housen, your time, take it away. Let's hear about the futures of local government.
Thank you so much, Peter. Housen, nice to see you. We're really excited to close out our Around the World Young Voices discussion. Really thank you for all that are here. We're going to have a really great discussion focused about how you can take foresight to improving your futures, right? So this is about how foresight is going to benefit you. So I'm going to I have a couple of announcements to make before we jump in. Housen's going to get us kickstarted with a really interesting kind of meditation and question and answer. And then we'll do a little bit of a breakout later on. But as Peter mentioned, we have 2 really big announcements. I'm going to drop these in the chat, but we are standing up a U.S. hub for Teach the Future. You know, as I say in the words of Lizzo, it's about damn time. Like, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. It's just really exciting that we're at this moment where we're doing it. And we have so many incredible people across the country. And of course, the folks who have been ahead of us on the international stage where we're learning, you know, from to make sure that we're maximizing our ability to make an impact. We're just really excited about it. I also have another announcement. We are standing up something called the Federal Foresight Advocacy Alliance. So we are calling for a U.S. Office of Strategic Foresight because we really think, again, the time is now. We've got to make some changes in how we think about our longer term futures, how they impact the way we make decisions, have more diverse inclusion in those decisions, more creative solutioning. So we're pushing forward. So I'll drop a couple of things in the chat while we're working here. Please, if you're interested, reach out. There's lots of ways to connect. We have a case statement for the FFAA that we definitely would love for you all to read and hear. But that's not what really today's session's about. I just wanted to drop those as kind of a closeout to this really exciting day. It's a big day for the U.S. and foresight. I'm really proud to be part of some of the leaders moving this forward. So really excited to announce that. So with that, Housen, are you ready to have some fun?
Yeah, definitely. What a great announcement. Honestly, check out that FCAA, I don't know the acronym, but check out that call for an Office of Strategic Foresight. It's so detailed. It's like, here's the exact organizational structure. Beautiful work. Beautiful work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, there we go.
I just dropped the link in. Yeah, I'll drop our US hub link in as well here for those that are interested.
Awesome. So yeah, I think I really love the last session. I think, to set a little bit of context, I think Ijan's question of like, how do we have young people or just everyone walk into spaces confident and empowered to act, right? And I think that's part of where we're coming from with this session. And I really appreciate Kara's openness to try stuff. You've never done this before, but the theory, really is that if we can create the conditions for joy, presence, and relationship, then transformation becomes possible and scalable, right? And so the session is really going to be bridging Eastern Zen Buddhism philosophy with foresight. And so we're going to be trying on two concepts from the field and like hats or glasses, right? And seeing how that impacts our preferred future, right? And seeing what we can discover for how that informs what we do today. So, yeah, we'll be, trying to keep this interactive. Definitely we'll be asking questions. So I'd love for your participation. And with that, I'm gonna start with a meditation. So feel free, close your eyes, take deep 3 breaths with me. I'll just have my big face here. All right. Now I'm going to turn on my meditation voice that we're doing now. So as you keep your eyes closed and visualize a serene river before you, its waters flowing gently. Notice the sunlight dancing on the surface, the sound of water moving over stones, and the cool, fresh air. Now imagine reaching out your hand to gently touch the water surface. Feel the coolness, the movement against your skin. Now lift your hand back into the air. Reach out once more to touch the water. Notice how it feels similar yet different. It's a new water, new moment. Withdraw your hand again. Now think about the water that's glistening on your hand. Is it the same water as before? Now, when you're ready, gently open your eyes and bring a sense of presence with you into this conversation. Now, so each moment in our life is kind of like this river, right? It's fleeting, it's always present, yet never the same, right? Every time you walk into the river, is it the same river? And what this visualization, leads us to is this concept of impermanence, right? Or the idea that everything around us, including our own lives, is always changing, right? Nothing lasts forever. And it occurs across all phenomena. Right? Let's see if this captures it. So like fire, right? Even fire, this isn't the same fire. With every millisecond that passes, it's fuel that's getting ejected and combusting with new oxygen, right? Even our skin, it's constantly changing. Even the sentence, right, of the rose is red. Is the rose red, or is it constantly changing, right? Other people might perceive it to be a different color, and it's also aging the second it's plucked or it's grown, right? So everything, if we challenge our assumptions around what we believe to be permanent and relate to it in a way where it's under constant change, trying that on, as a lens to look at our own lives. I'm curious, where might it be valuable? Where do we see opportunity to apply this idea of constant change, of impermanence, in your own life? Where might you begin to, push the dominoes over if you took a look at your life and thought, what if this area were under constant change? Love for y'all to put that in the chat or speak out loud. Unmute your mic.
Yeah, House, and I'm happy to chat from my perspective. For those that know me, I'm a mom of two under four. And so many would think, oh, you're a foresight practitioner, right? Like you practice foresight in your daily life, and the random disruptions of either temper tantrums or you run out of diaper supplies, whatever it is, don't impact your daily life. You're ready for everything. And I have to say that question of impermanence is something that plagues me as a futurist, because we spend all of our time planning for, thinking about the future, that sometimes you get lost in the present, right? And yet that clock is always there, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, right? It's always there reminding you have to stay present and grounded as you're considering, right? Like the changing environment, as you're considering the future. It's a really hard discipline. Many of us call that like the push and the pull. I don't know if others are feeling that, right? The constant tension. And some days it flows better, and other days you're fighting. You're either fighting the present or you're fighting the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We have these ideas of, I will get this done tomorrow or later. We're juggling so many things, especially as a parent. All right, under
Mm-hmm.
two, under four, that is yeah, that talk about impermanence, right? Um, Nothing's the same in a life of a parent like that.
I
Yeah.
think we had a hand raised, but I don't know where it went. I saw it and then it. June, did you have your hand raised?
That was actually a
Oh,
thumbs up, but
oh.
but happy to come in on that note of impermanence. Um, if I were to apply that to something in my life, well, I'm gonna be a little nerdy and bring in my work into this, but my work is supporting a group of 12 Youth Foresight Fellows to do their country level research project. And that's ever shifting. We're still in the process of supporting our fellows to identify the research project. And that spirit of experimentation brings a lot of anxiety as well. But I think really understanding that nothing has to stay the way it is from the beginning all the way to the end. That kind of evolution, constantly developing the idea is okay. And then, Hassan, you took us through the meditation. I think that's something maybe we want to incorporate to our program as well, to impart the sense that it is okay that things are constantly changing, and it's something that we should embrace as we're trying to really practice foresight and also feel grounded in this constant pull and push of the future and the present, and feeling like we're pulled in different directions.
Dang, mic drop. That's what I'm talking about. No, for real.
She's on a
Yeah.
roll.
Yeah. Like, if things are always changing, then what is the value of attachment, right? To such a multi-stakeholder, collaborative, 6 month, if not longer process, right? It's just, if we let go of that attachment, then it's just always changing. One last question before I move on is, so kind of, right, if we as human beings are more like human becomings, where does this idea of impermanence or constant change fit in with when we can make the change we want to see, right? When do we act on our preferred futures?
I'll chime in just because something went through my head. So, we have pretty much the dash, right? So that's, I mean, that's really what the dash is about. It's the opportunity, to contribute, to bring value, um, you know, to imprint, and then at the same time, leave something better than you found it. And so it's we in a lot of ways we don't know how much time we have, but each day that our chest rises and falls, that's the time. And so it's like, what do you do with it? It reminds me of that poem about a minute, you know. I used to do that with my students, do that poem with my students in a public speaking class to give them a sense of what a minute really is. And sometimes it could be, very short, but at other times it can seem like an hour. And so just the impermanence of the construct of time, um, is it kind of wakes you up, and it's almost like, it's a gift. And so, you realize if you look at it from that perspective, our society looks at it as a commodity, but it's actually a gift. Um, and so, and actually that didn't even come from me today. I heard, uh Norman Wurzba, which wrote the book Sacred Life. He mentioned that about it being a gift. So that makes us stewards of time, and stewards of the opportunity to, contribute to a preferred future, a better life, a better present, um, as well.
Like Sabrina. And I'd spotlight you. I can't see your beautiful face, but I appreciate that. And the idea that, like time is really something we've commoditized, and how if we can repurpose that as a gift, what becomes possible, right? How did that change the way we relate to it? And yeah, no, it's awesome because like we try to when we conceptualize the things in our lives, um, it's the nature of it's changed, right? Within like how do we have conversations of like timelessness if we're always like operating within concepts of time? And, I don't know. That's the fun of it.
Well,
But
I think you want to talk about young voices. This is something that I think young voices can really play a role in. I had the other day, my 4-year-old was asking me really deep questions like, where did we come from? How did the planets get here? Where's grandpa? Why don't we live forever? And we honestly, like, through this roundabout set of questions, came to the conclusion that Sabrina was just talking about is like, it's not a sad thing. It's not a like, existential thing that we're all only here for a short period of time. It's what should ignite you to get up and do your best every day and to love every day and to strive to make what you have in your arena better every day because you don't have forever, right? And that's what I keep telling her. And that's where, like, again, the tension as a futurist between a better tomorrow, wishing for a better tomorrow, but knowing you have limited time, right? So I think that dash quote for me, that was the first time I heard that was like last year of like, it's not the years in your life, it's the dash. It's the dash between the years that you live. That is what defines you. That is the gift that you got and how you spent your time.
it's incredible. It's incredible. Um, segue into this next concept, but just to the Spirit of World Futures Day, to summarize, we can use the future as a resource to inform what we do today, right? And as Chandran put in the chat right now, we don't need to wait until 2050 to start. We don't need to wait next year. We don't need to wait for the perfect conditions to start. If our dream is liberation or youth participation, we can achieve that today. right? It doesn't, that's, is a vision like a thing to achieve, or is it self-expression, And yeah, so the idea from impermanence is to live fully now. And because the present moment is really the only time we can affect change. So, and you'll see why Kara's just setting me up right now with this concept of death and
It's
with
planned.
this.
It doesn't look planned, but it's totally planned.
Yeah, we rehearsed this like 10 times. I really appreciate it. No, I'm joking. Yeah, so all right. So now we're gonna transition to the next topic. So I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes again. All right. Zoom in on all my okay, anyways. Yeah, so close your eyes and imagine a clear, serene sky above you. Vast, boundless, infinite. And within this sky, clouds begin to form, wispy and light, gathering moisture from the air. These clouds, nurtured by the evaporated water from the oceans, the rivers, and the earth, travel vast distances without borders. Visualize the water within these clouds, the essence of life, suspended and carried by the air. Now, see these clouds becoming heavy, ready to release their burden. Gently, rain begins to fall, cascading down to the earth, nourishing the soil, and giving life to all forms of nature. The rainwater finds its way into streams and rivers, eventually being drawn up to boil for a cup of tea. Now imagine yourself holding a cup of tea. The steam rises, carrying the scent. This tea, now part of your moment, is a direct link to the clouds in the sky, the rain that fell, and the journey of water through the earth. And as you sip your tea, reflect on this journey. The water in your tea is part of the clouds, the rain, the vast ocean. And like the tea, you are connected to the cycle of water, the earth, and the sky. Every sip is a reminder of the interconnectedness of all things. Now, holding the cup, feel a sense of gratitude for the intricate web of life that brought this tea to you. Recognize that just like the water, the clouds, and tea, your life is interwoven with the lives of countless others in the natural world. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes and bring a sense of interconnectedness with you into our conversation. Yeah. Nice. Okay, cool. So, this next concept is drawn from the idea that matter cannot be created or destroyed, right? So when we die, where do we go? We just get, turned into something else. And that's where this insight of interbeing, coined by a Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh from Vietnam, comes from. It's the insight that everything in the universe is connected and depends on everything else to exist. Nothing exists in isolation, right? Our very existence relies on the existence of all other things. From the air we breathe to the food we eat, everything is a tapestry of interconnection. Even at the level of subatomic particles, scientists have discovered that each particle is affected by all other particles, even the mind of the observer. Just by looking at it, change is created. We're used to this belief that particles form things, but in fact, all particles are dependent on all other particles. None have separate individuality. Everything is made of all other. So we're all connected. That's the idea, right? Every single action we take creates a change, whether or not we conceive it, whether or not we can see it, right? Our actions have far-reaching effects beyond what we can immediately perceive. And we can have ownership, agency, and responsibility to all beings in the planet, which can inform our choices about our collective futures. So my question for you all is, what does this idea of interbeing or interconnectedness mean for the impact of your actions on the future you want to create? And what does it look like? I'd love to hear.
Well, I can help everybody get warmed up. Well, I think just for those that are practicing foresight experts, the whole concept of connections is like an inherent part of the study. And I think there actually was maybe a television series in the 90s called Connections, where it talked about, how electricity, sparked a whole renaissance of, literacy in different parts and like unanticipated consequences. And I think that idea of connections can work, for you, but also you have to be aware. You talk about agency, but also that like what you do and what you build does have both immediate and kind of rippling effects that you may not consider. And so again, foresight can help us kind of get ahead of that to make sure that when we are making decisions, hopefully we're doing that more responsibly, more inclusively, right? I think that's really an important part of this, but everything's connected. And I think another really important aspect of this is like nothing big can happen without the networks of incredible people and systems to get there. And so that's something else too, is like if you can figure out how to create a network effect to create positive change, you're going to be far more likely to get there than if you go on your own, right? So that connectiveness of using your networks to get there is very important.
Building off of that, I like the notion of the responsibility and sort of this respect for all things. We had talked a bit about earlier in the day about putting values back into some of our work and some of the
Mm-hmm.
processes that we have. And I think
Mm-hmm.
this really helps see where those values kind of come from, and that notion of the connectedness of everything. Um, and bearing it in mind, because I think that one of the issues you might have is that can be quite overwhelming, right? Like, if I lift up this teacup, I've changed everything. And do I want to deal with what I've done? Like, is that going to end with like, a Hitler-like character coming to power because of these? But um, but to an extent, I think how you deal with that is goes back to the first question we were talking about, which is this whole the impermanence of things. And I think as futurists, it's important for us to have a certain comfort with uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
and even, I mean, an awareness of ignorance in that notion of, we can't know all, I suppose. But a comfort with uncertainty so that you might start a ball rolling, and where it's going to go, you may not have control over. And so you have to kind of appreciate, letting go and allowing the future to go where it will go. And so that our preferred future may not actually be ours, but it's a much more
Mm-hmm.
experience. I think it's an issue I have with some of my practice in foresight futures is people are like, futures man, give me the future. What are we doing? I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, it's not, I can't do that. Like, my
Mm-hmm.
future might be what I want is drastically different from what you want. So what we need to figure out is, what do we want?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that definitely kind of fosters that mental space and capacity for moving in those directions. So yeah.
And I think if you get, it's like really well said. I think if we shift from like our outcomes focused to more of a like alignment on common values and common, I guess, common understandings of like rules of the road or swim lanes or things that are acceptable and not acceptable, then you don't have to worry so much about that specific singular future happening, right? Like there's a whole range of positive futures as long as you're aligning. So that's really interesting.
Yeah. And there's a lot of interesting space, I think, for like, because this notion of giving rights to animals, to plants, to a park, to a piece of land, um, that begins to make more sense when you're in that space as well. Because I think
Mhm.
now people are like, why would you give rights to a river? And I was like, well, if it's not going to be there in 10 years, it's probably a good idea we do something. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, I like the idea of like it's not like my future, it's our future. Sabrina?
Yeah, I just a couple of things have resonated with me. The notion of, when we talk about futures and, preferred futures, and and it raises an awareness of inquiry, like finding out what is the preferred future. Like I can't take for granted of what Kara's preferred future is. You know what I mean? And so I think I love the fact that it warrants some type of communication so that you can, and also I think with that then comes the story, because then if you're really interested, then you ask, well, why is that, and where does that come from? And and oftentimes then that even gets into the story really is a chronicling of a history, because
Mhm.
everyone came to be, just like you said, the water that goes over, our hands is not the water that we touched before. Fire, each crackle is something new. And so there was a before there before. One of the messages that I appreciate, and again, is I feel like it's a gift of futures, is when there's resistance, people I think don't realize that there now was once a future.
Mhm.
And so, when you kind of bring that up and raise that awareness, then it's like, okay, well, if your yesterday was someone, if your yesterday was once a future for you, then why is it that, why not look at a future that you haven't lived yet, because you've already done this over and over and over and over and over again. Um, the other piece is about the interconnectedness, I think, and I talked about this earlier too, is we have to, because of the dominance of pastness in our language, particularly the English language, as it is spoken around the world. I think we need to somehow learn from indigenous languages how to talk about the relationship between past, present, and future, um, because the way that we talk about it in English is very segmented. And even in terms of how we talk about our interconnectedness with the planet and the inhabitants of the planet, honestly, because of the limitations of English, we're not really giving rights to anything. We don't have, in a real way, we as human species don't have the right to give rights. Rabbits have rights because they're rabbits. You know what I mean? Wolves have rights because they're wolves intrinsically. And so who are we to be so obnoxious to suggest that, we have the authority to bestow that upon, a creature that we had nothing to do with creating? And so I think that those kinds of notions need to be taken into account and examined in a real way, but in a way that's not, I don't know, like, that's not meant to create discord or anything like that, but certainly I think we need a language of the future or language of futures, and bring that to bear as we talk about these preferred futures.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the part of the intention behind this concept of interbeing, interconnectedness, is that we all share the same future. And so a preferred future in which people aren't able to contribute their voice, right? Whether that be young people, whether that be nature, right? That can't communicate through human means. When we create and act on preferred futures where they're not included, we're actually hurting ourselves. And so that really adds some, maybe that informs the types of futures we try to create. So thank you, Sabrina, for sharing that. All righty. Kara, would you like to close us out with the last part of our conversation today?
Yeah, right. We're going to run into our visualization or metaphor for kind of our last activity, right? So we're going to do breakouts. I think we have, actually, we should check house, and I think we have the ability to do breakouts on our end. But basically, we're going to kind of take this kind of meta discussion that we've had so far and bring it back down to like your life, your individual time, your dash, right? So thinking about both the impermanence and the interconnectedness, and thinking about how you're planting seeds for the future today in your life, and how that is directly impacting you and your life. So we're going to kind of think through an interesting question, a personal question from a foresight standpoint, which is spend some time individually kind of thinking about what a dream month would look like for you in 2035. And then we're going to spend some time jotting those ideas down. And then you're going to distill that into a single sentence, right? So, what does that all look like in its most distilled form? And once we do this exercise, we'll probably give us like 5 minutes in a big group, just doing that at your desk or wherever you are on your phone. We're going to go and do a quick set of breakouts so you can pair up and discuss what you guys felt like was this nugget of your best self in 2035. Like, what does that look like? Your most radically optimistic, exciting future state. And we'll probably spend a few minutes there, and then we'll come back and kind of just share out some of the ideas and experiences of both what you wrote down, but also the conversations that you had. So I think at this point, Allison, we can have everybody kind of individually think through that question, and then we'll go into breakouts. And again, the question, we can put this in the chat too. What would a dream month look like for you in 2035? So just jot down a whole bunch of different ideas, and then we can distill that into a single sentence. But just think big picture, like what are all the things that you would want in that month? I love this question. This is super fun.
Yeah, I'm all right too. Let's do it.
Yeah, me too.
Sweet. Welcome back, everyone. Uh,
Hey, we're back.
Sarah, you wanna take it from here? Um,
Yeah, sure. Well, I guess we certainly had some exciting futures in our room, but I think before I volunteer anybody, does anybody want to offer up? Do they have like a synthesized, compelling phrase or concept for what their best life is going to look like in 2035? Did we get that far?
Well, I gotta out Scott because he said he was not going to go to the moon in 2035 because he'd already been there.
Wow. Boom.
Really optimistic future.
Yes.
That surprised me. That surprised me.
Wow. Love that. Chandran?
Yes. My my thought my we know I'm talking about the predictions of the danger. Prediction of the danger. For example, hurricane, earthquake, tremors of the earth, all these are spread across the world. Now, animals sense that much earlier. Animals are much earlier. For example, when you have an earthquake, birds fly away. So therefore they have the scent, but we take it little later using technology. Animals can predict that much earlier. So if there's a provision where AI can be used for animals to communicate so that all changes of the earth can be predicted much earlier, and that could be informed to us to be prepared today for facing the that is one.
I think I'm so sorry, Chandran. You were breaking up a bit, but I think I heard something about a very optimistic future that AI can bring. If you could finish your sentence and put it in the chat just to make sure we got
Yeah,
it, that would be really good.
animals, yeah, sure,
I'm
sure,
hearing,
sure. I'll
yeah,
connect that, sure, sure.
I'm hearing animals too, so I love it.
Yes.
I want to hear
Yes,
you
I know.
hear what you got to say.
The moon and animals, you guys are like really killing this one. Anyone else? How about Peter? I'm curious. What are you going to be doing?
Well, I guess I better, you outed me here. I want to attend the ceremony in which the United Nations adopts futures literacy as a
Wow.
required subject, along with math and science and history and literature, for young people around the world. And they recommend to their member states that they put that in their standards of their ministries and standards. So I want to be there when they make that announcement.
Wow. Love that. That's so
I also want to go into space. Opposed to Scott, I had not gone into space by 2035, so I want to go into space too.
I thought you were going to say like it was going to be held on the moon. That UN
Well,
meeting was going to be
no,
held
that'd be a
on
little
the
bit too much. No, we want to be sustainable. This is
moon. Would anyone else like to share?
I'll go ahead and share. It's not as
Sure.
exciting as already being on the moon. God, like that was just so perfect. I'll be thinking about that for a while. Well, mine was in 2035, I would probably have my own cancer research lab and helping
Wow.
you know, people discover about STEM for sure, but also being at the forefront of innovation, AI innovation in healthcare, specifically for cancer research. And probably we already have a cure. That I am really hoping that we achieve by 2035.
I mean, that is an incredible. I got goosebumps listening to you, Amna. And I think we should all just recognize how incredible. How old are you, Amna? 18?
I just turned 18.
I
So I'll be
mean,
30 in 2035.
who at 18 has these ambitions? I just think that's so completely incredible. She's studying biology. Like you're gonna be, I wish I even knew what future thinking was at your age. Like just that's absolutely incredible.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
in these last few minutes, I guess if anybody else wants to share their kind of one sentence, or if there was anything that really stood out to you in this discussion about bringing futures thinking back to you as an individual. I think for so many of us, we're thinking about external change or changing our environment or changing our ecosystems. But I think it's just as important that all those changes have to start with ourselves. Did anybody have an epiphany in this discussion for themselves?
I've been knocking around an idea that you just alluded to, Kara. Most of us come to futures as macro social scientists. I was a sociologist, engineers, economists, policy studies people. We have actually very few people, formal psychologists in the field. I think we need more. We talk about attitude change. We talk about paradigm change, accepting, embracing uncertainty, and things like that. There is a whole field of social psychology about how people form attitudes and how they change those attitudes and what works and what doesn't. And I get, unfortunately, and I review for all the journals and things like that, I get very few articles, speaking to that subject. So if anybody knows a psychologist who might be interested in studying the future, I think there's a huge field open of research and publication for people to apply their knowledge of attitudes and personality and things like that in micro stuff to the issue of the future studies. So I agree with you. There's a lot to be learned about that.
Thank you. Well, I know we just have a few minutes left too, Peter. I didn't know if you had any final closing thoughts that you wanted to share to the group. I know we're wrapping up a 24-hour.
No, that's my job. I'm a facilitator. I'm the backup person for this. One of the most important attitudes that I believe, and I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to practice it, and that's gratitude. That's what I feel right now as we wind up 24 hours. Scott asked me, didn't we? Is this the first time we did all 24 hours and had wonderful discussions? And I said, no, we actually did it last year too. So this is the second year we've done this. The hundreds of people involved in this and the coordination. Amna, particularly, Lisa's not. Lisa's still, maybe he's still here. I don't know, but they need to have a huge testament of thanks and for bringing this together. All of the facilitators, all of the participants. Our mission is to bring young voices to the field, you bring young voices to the future, and bring future studies to them. And so this is a great, great event. And we can't thank you all enough, you facilitators and the other participants for doing that. It really warms my heart that a group of people in this troubled world can come together and do something so marvelous. And that's basically my closing benediction, if you will, and be happy to talk about it again next year. So and I can't thank you, Kara and Housen, for ending on a note that was truly remarkable. I mean, after all of this hecticness and all of this organization and technology, which tends to be frustrating to us old folks, to end on a note of such peace and reflection was truly monumental. I don't want to make it a have to, but it was a brilliant choice to do this. It's late for most of us if we're in the West, certainly. And just to end on such a soothing and reflective and meaningful note, I want to thank you too for doing that as well. It was really terrific.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, of course. I don't know if anybody else wants to add their last minute benediction. You're still on the screen, Amna. Please tell us what you're feeling right now.
I feel amazing, even though I have not had proper sleep and I'm very exhausted, and I had classes today, so I've been running back and forth, but it's just so amazing to finally see this all come together this year. I was very involved with Lisa behind the scenes organizing World Futures Day, so it's truly wonderful to be behind the scenes, just organizing everything and getting everyone connected and ready. And one thing that I just think is so amazing that Teach the Future does is provide a space for not just futurists, but also young people who are such an important part of the conversation. And no matter what capacity we do it in with all of our programming, it's always wonderful to see how we can come together from every part of the world to be part of these conversations and share and, you know, collaborate. And it's just so amazing to see that we don't just talk, but also walk the walk. And
Beautiful.
I'm so happy to be part of Taste the Future.
Let's ask our glorious leader, Lisa, to share your feelings of what, other than sleep deprivation, what are you feeling right now?
No, I just came on here to say hello. I heard Amna's voice and I just she said it all. Thank you all for everything. Bon voyage, Elfine.
Absolutely. All the post follow-up links are in the chat. Please check that out. Our hashtag is WFDYV. Please tell your friends, and we'll be here, I hope, next year. That's a short-term forecast. It's a hope, it's an aspiration, and we certainly want to be. So we'll do what we can to make that happen. And it's been another great day, another great 24 hours in the history of the world, in the history of the future studies, in the history of our Teach the Future movement. So take care and be safe and be reflective, be with yourself, and that mostly. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.